Welcome back to another video where we're going to be doing a Temu tool review. So I've done a couple reviews already of Temu tools to kind of show you what I think of them, if they're going to hold up or not. And we do have another one here today we're going to be trying out. So it's time to switch over the tires on my truck to the winter tires. So what I decided to do was I picked up a 1/2 inch impact off of Temu that runs off of Makita batteries, and I figured I would give this thing a try. So inside the box, there's really not much here. You get the packaging. There is a small 22mm socket here that comes with it. You also have a USB-C charger and the owner's manual here. So this runs off of a Makita style battery. So I have quite a few Makita tools, so I figured this would be a good option to try out. So I have a bunch of 3 amp hour batteries and I have one 5. So I'm going to try it out with the 3 first, and then I'm going to switch over to the 5 for the other half of the tires on my truck. But what we're going to do is give this thing a shot, and putting in the battery here, there's a couple different modes here. It's hard to see what they actually say. They're very, very faint, but it seems like one is a low speed here and one's a high speed. So it does not give me much specs online for this, but this is the SNUOK. The model number is the 1838, and it looks like it has 280 pounds of torque, and the RPM is between 23 to 3,000. So the price for this was only $44 shipped. So I figured I'd give this a shot. Normally I'm running my pneumatic gun off of my pancake compressor. So because the pancake doesn't hold a lot of air, what I normally do with my vehicles when I swap the tires is before I lift it up off the ground, I'll crack the lug nuts with my breaker bar, then lift it up and pop all the tires off, because sometimes when the tires are torqued down, I can't actually break them free with just the small pancake compressor. So my plan though is I'm going to leave them unbroken, and I'm just going to lift them up and give this a shot with the 3 amp hour on one side, and we'll switch over to the 5 on the other side, and we'll see if this has enough power to break all those lug nuts free without needing to pop them on the ground, and we'll see how that does with tightening them back down afterwards. So it's pretty standard here. You have the reverse setting, you have a lock here in the middle, and the forward setting. I am not actually sure why there's a USB-C charger, because this runs off of batteries, and I don't actually see anywhere that this needs to plug into. So it's kind of interesting they sent the charger for no reason. It's nice. It does have a centered LED light here right in the middle, so it'll shine underneath, which is awesome. So unlike some other ones that are tucked in on other positions, this looks like it's going to be in pretty clear shot and you'll get some decent light on it. As well as it does come with a belt clip and a hanging clip here for the rear. So let's jump outside and we're going to give this thing a shot. So we're outside now. We have the front wheels chalked, and what we're going to do is try the back with the fully charged 3 amp hour battery, and we'll see how it does without breaking free these lug nuts. So let's give this a shot. So like I said, we are fully charged here. So that did pretty good. There's just a couple of the lug nuts that may have been a little bit tighter. So let's swap on this first tire, and then we're going to move to the other side. So we've got our lug nuts on hand tight. So they're all tight right now. We are going to torque everything down at the very end. So let's move over to the other side and we'll see how this does. So we are down 1 bar so far. So again, let's give this a shot here. So that actually did pretty good again. It was just the one lug nut that may have been torqued down a little bit tighter than the rest. So let's tighten these down. So we've got those tight, and what we're going to do is lower the truck down now. So we're still at 3 bars here, which is nice. So it looks like we possibly would be able to go all 4 tires with one 3 amp hour battery with no problem. So I just realized I did forget to charge the 5 up fully, but it is at 3 bars. So let's give this front one a shot. So I was able to get those ones off. This one nut though, it looks like it's a little swollen. It was the only one really that just gave me a little bit of a hard time there. What we're going to do is I'm going to put on all these other ones and then move to this last one that was stuck, because again, I think it's a bit swollen, so I don't want it to get stuck on the socket here. So overall, again, that one wasn't actually too bad other than the one socket. So let's move over to the final side. So we have our final side here lifted up. Let's give this a shot. So again, that actually wasn't bad, considering I normally do break all these lug nuts free with my pneumatic gun anyways before I lift the vehicle up. So let's get this wheel off too. So let's tighten these lug nuts down. So after all that, we're down to 2 bars here. Again, we started with 3, but I don't know if that's a full charge or a halfway charge on the 3rd bar. So let's torque down all these lug nuts, and we're going to see how much pressure we need to torque them all down to give us a rough idea of how tight this gun actually gets these lug nuts. So I've got my torque wrench here set. So that first tire actually wasn't bad. There was about half a turn that I got out of each lug nut. So let's move to the other rear side and then we'll do the two fronts. So only one of them needed more than about a quarter turn. Two were basically torqued already, which is nice. So let's try the other two front ones. So for all five of these ones, I got about a quarter to half a turn on each one before they torque down. So let's try out that last tire. And this is our last tire, so let's give this a shot. So very similar to the other three, I got about a quarter to half a turn out of each lug nut before they torque down. Let's jump back inside and I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this impact gun. So now that we're back inside and we actually had a really good chance on trying out this impact gun, I have to say I am surprisingly impressed with how it did. So normally when I go to swap out the winter tires of my vehicles, I always break all the lug nuts free before I even jack it up off the ground. And that's me using my pneumatic gun on the pancake compressor because the compressor is not enough air for the gun sometimes to crack those lug nuts. Where this one, on some of the lug nuts, you could see it did have to try a little bit harder, but it was able to crack off every lug nut on all the wheels. So really the only feedback I'd have for this is making sure that you either have two 3 amp hour batteries ready in case by the time you make it to that fourth wheel, it's not enough charge left to remove that wheel, or use at least a 5 amp hour fully charged. I'm happy with how it did with the three, where it only dropped a bar doing the two, but I think by the time you get up to the front after running down them, you may be at the bottom of the charge and may need to swap batteries. So overall, I definitely would say this is a buy for $44. You really can't go wrong with it. The big question is going to be, how long is it going to last? Is this going to last me a few years, or is this going to be dead after swapping the tires back on during next spring? So if you have any questions about this, or there's any tools that you want to see me try out off of Temu, leave me a comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.